We'll start off with opening statements by each of the candidates. We've asked them to limit them to 2.5 minutes each. Then we'll have questions from our panelists. The questions will be directed to the candidates in alternate fashion. Those we'd ask that they give a 1-minute response with a 30-second rebuttal if they wish. Should mention that the candidates don't get advance notice of the questions, so they do not know what they'll be until they're asked. Each panelist will ask 4 questions. At the end of the panel's question, if time permits, we'll accept questions from the audience, but we would ask you to write those questions out, and the chamber staff would collect them about halfway through the program. Then we'll have closing comments from each candidate for 1 minute each. With that, I ask the panelists to come up, and we'll introduce each of the panelists. On my immediate left is Art Cummings, the editor of the News-Times, graduate of Williams College, earned his master's degree at Western Connecticut State University. He's been a journalist for more than 37 years and was a part owner of the Housatonic Valley Publishing Company in New Milford for over a 25-year period. He came to the News-Times to help launch the Greater New Milford Spectrum and served as editor of that paper for 9 years. He is a member of the News-Times editorial board and has been editor of the News-Times since April 2007. To Art's left is a gentleman who has served as a panelist in previous mayoral debates, Alan D. Morton. Alan is the Dean of the Ansell School of Business at Western Connecticut State University. He has degrees from Harvard, the University of Pennsylvania, and Pace University. His professional and community interests include economic development, building national and international educational partnerships, and promoting fiscal literacy. Just to the left of Alan is Gary Hawley. Gary is a Danbury native, graduating from both Danbury High School and Western Connecticut State University. He is the president of Hawley Construction, director of the Savings Bank of Danbury, member of the director of the Greater Danbury Chamber, director of the Western Connecticut University Foundation, and a director of Housatonic Industrial Development Corporation. He is married to Cindy and has 4 children. Next, we'll have the mayoral candidates, if they would come up. On my immediate right, serving his 4th term as mayor, Mark Boughton. Mark was born and raised in Danbury, attended Danbury Public Schools, and graduated from Danbury High School. He also attended Central Connecticut State University, earned a Bachelor of Science degree in History, and received his master's degree from Western Connecticut in Danbury, and was employed as a social service teacher at Danbury High School for a number of years. He served 3 terms in the Connecticut legislature, representing the 138th district, where he served as ranking member of the Environment Committee as well as a member of the Education Committee. Mayor Boughton is married to Phyllis and is serving his 4th term and a candidate for his 5th term. On the mayor's right is Gary Concalves. Gary was again born and raised in Danbury and educated in public schools. He's the father of 3 children, employed for 30 years as a General Reinsurance Corporation, and is currently Vice President of Global Finance. He has a bachelor's degree from the University of Bridgeport and is a member of St. Anthony's Parish, the Portuguese Cultural Club of Danbury, the Lebanon American Club, and president of the Board of Directors for Child and Family Institute in Fairfield County. His extensive youth coaching experience with the Cal Ripken baseball and Baby Ruth baseball. Those are our candidates, and we'll start off immediately with the first question from Art Cummings to, I'm sorry, jumped it. The opening statements will start off with Mark Bowden. Mark.
There we go. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for once again agreeing to serve as moderator of this event. And I'd also like to thank the Greater Danbury Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring today's event, and I'd like to thank our panelists for their participation. I'm also pleased and honored to be in the room with individuals who have helped make our economy a priority and help build our great city into the economic engine that it is. And ladies and gentlemen, during this debate, you're going to hear a lot about what's wrong with Danbury. But I'm here to tell you about what's right with Danbury. And during this debate, you'll hear what is bad about Danbury. And I'm here to tell you what is good about Danbury. Because Danbury has so much to be proud of. We have an award-winning hospital, a first-class university, a diverse economy, historically low crime rates, an unemployment rate that was well below the state average, low tax rates, sewer and water rates that are the lowest in the state, and outstanding schools. As mayor, I've led the effort to revitalize our neighborhoods, to improve our infrastructure, and to improve our schools, develop our economy, and improve efficiency in government at every level. And over the last 2 years, we've opened a new elementary school for our children, a new police station, a new parking garage, a new all-purpose field. We've preserved open space, and we've created aggressive property tax relief programs for our seniors. My administration has been proactive and has not been afraid to tackle the difficult challenges that face our city. And we are in the process of developing strategic plans for our fire department, for our schools, for traffic improvement, for Main Street, and for the Palace Theater. And while times are tough and money is tight, we can use this time to plan so when the economy does turn around, we'll be ready to implement many of the recommendations in those plans. In these difficult and economic trying times, it's important to have a mayor that is positive and a mayor that is upbeat about our community. This election is about our future. And this election is about the promise and the potential of Danbury and its people. Serving as Danbury's mayor has been one of my highest honors, and I look forward to today's discussion about our great city. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. First, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this forum. Unfortunately, this may be the only debate, as the mayor will not give up one night so the citizens of Danbury could see and hear us for free. Mark, that's politics over people. My family and I are proud to call Danbury our hometown, but we can do better. I want to polish Danbury's image of a community that's friendly and a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Here are my top priorities. First, I'll reverse 8 straight years of tax increases and big-ticket borrowing. Those are bad ideas. Nearly $14 million to pay debt this year could have saved the jobs of teachers and police. I'll use my private sector executive experience to deliver city services through competent and careful management and user-friendly technology. I'll even open City Hall for regular business hours. That's a good idea. Second, I'll concentrate on jobs. My full-time professional economic development director will have one responsibility: working with the Chamber and its existing Small Business Development Center for the growth of current and new job-creating businesses. Anything less is a bad idea. Third, I'll put education dollars in the classroom. My children and I are proud products of Danbury schools. We compete now for jobs with highly educated young people from all over the world. Yet, 9 Danbury schools fail to make adequate yearly progress. Despite this challenge, the 2009 school budget, for the first time, was not increased with local tax dollars. This forced the early retirement of too many of our most experienced teachers, leading to larger class sizes. These are bad ideas. I'll put enough quality teachers in the classroom, and I'll fight to establish a charter school for the arts and an academy of math and science to foster job skills and feed into WestConn's impressive science curriculum. Quality science education to enhance our local high-tech jobs is a good idea. Fourth, I'll make it easier to get to the good jobs. Danbury's traffic problems are not only a health and safety issue, but also an economic development one. I'll make a new traffic improvement plan a focus of my first term, not my last. It will be creative, innovative, and bold. I'll make that investment. This is a good idea that's long overdue. These are my ideas. This is my vision. This is my plan. We can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Gary, you have identified traffic congestion as one of the key problems facing Danbury and just mentioned it in your opening statement. And you promised to establish and implement a bold new traffic improvement plan. Would you please identify what you see as the most significant traffic problems in the city and provide the key specifics of your traffic improvement plan?
Sure, Art. We hear tell that there's a traffic improvement plan in place since 1985, but frankly, I drove here today, Mayor, and it's not working, and you've had 8 years. Speed bumps and electronic speed limit signs are not a traffic improvement plan. I think while certain aspects of this plan need to be analyzed in more detail, I think we could redirect city streets, synchronize traffic lights, discourage the use of neighborhood streets as major thoroughfares and access ways. And I think this only requires creativity and attention to detail. Also, I would like to consider the possibility of opening up perhaps 4-lane corridors through the city, as such was supposed to be done from Seeger Street to Driftway Point Road, where the money was approved but never funded from the state back in the 90s, and it's never been followed up upon.
Yes, I do. First of all, we have a traffic improvement plan. It was designed in 2006 with full input from our planning department as well as the state DOT, and we're in the process of implementing that plan right now. In addition to that, we've also embarked in March of 2009 on a traffic signal synchronization plan where we hired a VHB to evaluate 38 different intersections throughout the city, and we're in the process of beginning to synchronize those particular lights as well. But the big challenge that we have as it relates to traffic is that every major road in Danbury, if you think about it, is really a state road, whether it be 37, 39, Newtown Road. And the bottom line here is that we don't control those traffic lights. Although we can advocate for them to do something about it, the reality is we're subject to the whims of the state DOT. And quite frankly, they've been somewhat dysfunctional over the years in being able to implement that. The second thing is that big ticket traffic improvements are really just big ticket bonding, which is something that Gary's been critical of throughout this campaign. So in order for us to go out and actually move roads and add in new highways, we're going to have to go borrow money to do that. So you really can't have it both ways. You can't turn around on one hand and say we need to go move roads, but on the other hand, we shouldn't be borrowing any money. The bottom line is the taxpayers have to pay that. We have the traffic improvement plan. We've been very careful and judicious at rolling it out. It's more than just speed humps. It's cameras at every intersection that we have in the city that's available on the internet now. It's synchronization of lights. And it's actually realigning of some roads. White Street, you'll see, we just spent over $1 million in widening that road and adding an additional lane. Seeger Street, we just added an additional lane. And we're in the process of working on plans throughout the city.
Next question from Adam Morton to our
Mark, WestCon is obviously interested in the future of Danbury. How much work for the university to ensure the economic and cultural vitality of Danbury?
Well, we've been very pleased and blessed to have a very strong town-down relationship with Western Connecticut State University. And I've been proud and honored to work with Dr. Schmatter on a number of initiatives, whether it be for the arts and the Ives Center for the Performing Arts, or whether it be other projects, cultural fairs and such that we've had with the university. I think one of the keys that we have to do is continue to link the students with downtown, but also link downtown with what goes on in campus. There's some wonderful programs and wonderful programming that happens at WestCon, and it's more being able to get the message out to our residents about how WestCon can serve as an interest, serve as a point of interest for all of us. In addition to that, with a new multicultural center in the Performing Arts Center that's going to be built on the West Side campus, thanks to our legislators in the room who helped secure that funding, that's going to be a real added jewel in terms of our crown here in the city of Danbury. So as we continue to work on these projects together, strengthen those bonds, I think it's critical as we move forward in the 21st century that we recognize the value as an employer, the value as a job training force, and the value as an educational facility that WestCon has for all of us.
No, I think I've gone to WestCon in the past, and it's a great school, and I think we're very fortunate to have the state university systems that we do in Connecticut. My children are going to state schools, and I think we should foster the relationship with WestCon to the extent possible. I'm also excited, I just want to say, about Naugatuck Valley Community College coming to town, because I believe that fills a void that we have for many of our children. As people know, Naugatuck Valley and Waterbury, most of the kids that attend are from the Danbury area, and I am a proud graduate of Naugatuck Valley as well. So anything we can do to foster the support and of these colleges is something that I would strongly believe in.
Thank you. The next question will be from Gary.
Gary, you are a political newcomer with very little or no experience in politics or government. Why should people vote for you?
Well, thanks, Gary. Actually, that's not quite true. For one thing, I've worked behind the scenes in Democratic politics since the 70s when we campaigned for Bill Rashford, and I've been involved with many other campaigns throughout the years. Secondly, I've had 30 years of corporate political experience, and as a global operations manager, it's if you can get the Germans to do things that you want and work nicely with the Brits and everyone else, you know how to play politics. So I don't believe I'm a newcomer there. I believe, running the city of Danbury is just like a corporate position. It is a corporation, and I think that you just have to carefully plan and manage and be a detailed, hands-on person and make sure you know what's going on in the city.
You want me to answer why everybody should vote for Gary? Look, one thing I'll just say is that that the city of Danbury, any municipality, any state agency, and really the federal government too, there's no other organization like it. It's a unique creature. And so you really can't say that you're going to run government like a business. For example, we have 6 different collective bargaining units within our city. We have civil service rules that overlay the top of our collective bargaining units, our union rules. And on top of that, we have the Municipal Employees Relation Act, or MIRA, that we have to ensure that we're in compliance with. So while you can take good business principles, particularly when you're looking at objectives and goals from your departments, the bottom line is that you have a unique creature that you have to manage, and it's a very interesting and diverse organization to be able to get to move in the right direction. I think I've been successful at doing that in the last year, and I'm proud of my record. And I think that in the next 2 years, you'll see even more positive direction within the city.
Mark, you have pointed to the new state-of-the-art police station as one of your key accomplishments as mayor. Looking to the future, are there any city infrastructure problems that you are disappointed you haven't done a better job with? What are Danbury's greatest remaining infrastructure needs, and what initiatives have you made or do you plan to make to satisfy those needs? All in 1 minute.
I think I got 2, Art. I will say that when I took office, because our infrastructure had been neglected for so long, I had to prioritize what were the things that have to be done right away. Obviously, we've had to do some work in our schools, and we executed 2 expansion programs at both of our middle schools, as well as built the Magnet School and just completed Ellsworth Avenue School. But in addition to that, we also had a public safety headache with the old police station, and the facility that our officers were using, which they were working in deplorable conditions. Those were the priorities that we had to lay out initially. The second piece of that, and the second part of our capital improvement program, will be to look at all of our schools individually, particularly things like boilers, roofs, and windows that also are energy inefficient, but also can present serious sick building problems as we go on if we don't correct them. The problem with the city over the last 30 years is we spent a lot of time, sorry, Mayor Dara, but we spent a lot of time delaying and deferring investment, capital needs, and our investment in our capital needs. And what's happened is those things will catch up to you, and you'll end up having to pay more later. So I would say to you, Art, that initially our school buildings are something that we're going to continue to work on. We have developed a true rolling capital plan that if the charter is passed in November, we'll be able to implement so that we don't ever get behind the eight ball again like we are, particularly on our facilities. Our infrastructure, particularly our roads, always need work, and we continue to spend dollars to upgrade them. East Pembroke Road, East Haystown Road, some of those areas you go out and look at, we've done a phenomenal job. Under my administration, we repaired 7 bridges that were in failing condition that I inherited. We still have 6 more to go. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. We have to do that in extremely difficult financial conditions that we're facing over the last year and a half.
Yeah, the police station has been a big deal with me. I mean, while our police were in cramped quarters and were very patient to wait for a new building, I just think the building that we put in the place that we put it was overkill. And instead of spending the money on that, I would have taken a portion of that money and kept police officers on and kept our most experienced teachers in the classroom. Also, we talk about public safety, and I want to talk about the police a little bit. I would put the 16 bicycle cops back on patrol downtown in high-density neighborhoods so our city, and they are visible and available. I would not have laid off 12 special police officers when crime is on the rise because of the bad economy. Of course, domestic abuse complaints are up. I would create a motorcycle unit for traffic control. So, that's it.
Gary, you make the claim that Danbury has raised property taxes and increased debt without a clear vision for the future. What is your vision for the future, and what tax and debt policies correspond to your vision?
Well, Dean, taxes have increased 8 years in a row. Sewer rates have increased. Water rates have increased. We've increased rates on every conceivable fee that the taxpayers expect their taxes to pay for with no relationship to the service obtained. These situational fees are really hidden taxes. And all the while, granting tax deferrals to residential developers. All we're concerned about here right now is generating revenue and not about homeowners and businesses paying a fee when their alarm goes off, as an example. Bonding. This administration has bonded $228 million in 8 years at a gross level, and I don't care about the net because we're all city taxpayers and all state taxpayers. $13.8 million alone are in this year's budget to pay long-term debt, and they could have been used to keep teachers in the classroom. So I would suggest that we've got to be more efficient in City Hall. I would suggest that we've got to be more efficient in each department, and I don't consider consolidation of departments necessarily a cost-benefit savings. So we've got to do more. We've got to take the burden off our seniors in this town, and we've got to do more to keep teachers in the classroom.
Well, I don't want to go back to last. This was about taxes, so let me address taxes. You know, Gary has said that a number of times over this campaign that we've had 8 straight years of taxes. So I decided to do a little research and see if what Gary was saying was true. So I picked a house, 10 Tranquility Court. Gary might recognize that. He owns it. And I looked at his tax liability. In 2006, Gary's taxes were $4,715.28. In 2008, Gary's taxes were $4,646.52. He received a tax cut of $68.76 over the last 2 years. And that's pretty typical of what residential taxpayers saw in the city of Danbury. We have been able to stabilize taxes, not necessarily increase them. But a lot of what your liability is based on the valuation of your home. And that's determined by a state-mandated reevaluation that we've had to do over the last 8 years, something that the previous administration sought to delay. So we'll be back out there with a reevaluation coming up in about a year. We'll be able to reset values based on what current market conditions are according to state law, and be able to make those adjustments necessary. In terms of sewer and water rates, I just want to reiterate, we have the lowest sewer and water rates in the state of Connecticut, and we have not raised them in 3 years.
Our economy is in a recession that most economists agree is not near recovery. What are your future plans to help the city of Danbury continue to weather the storm? What can you do to help local businesses survive?
Well, Gary, I think the first thing we can do is to continue the good work that we've already been doing in the Permit Center to make permits more accessible and easily to obtain for our prospective businesses. So we're going to continue to do that, and we've already done some initiatives that we're pretty proud of. One is that we have e-permitting, where people can apply for their permit online, electrical contractors, pool contractors, people like that, plumbers, and they never have to walk in City Hall. In addition to that, we've been able to develop, working with SCORE, coaching for small businesses. We'd like to marry up a small business, a medium-sized business initiative with the Chamber and with Westcon, and be able to have a true small business development center, a point of service for people that are planning to open a business, where they can get mentoring and coaching, where they would have access to capital, hopefully provided by our local banks, and where they would be able to develop a strong business plan to be successful. More than 50% of the residents of this city are employed by small and medium-sized businesses. So it's important that we go out there and try to help them develop their business. In addition to that, we'll continue to develop the Office of Economic Development. I've got a plan that will save the taxpayers money and be able to offer economic development services to prospective companies that would like to come in Danbury and companies that would like to stay in Danbury or possibly expand.
Yes. Basically, Mark established the full-time professional economic development director, and that's dwindled down to what was a 15-hour per week political favor to a coordinator's position. And I believe we've got to aggressively attract and retain the businesses in Danbury and seek new business from elsewhere in the state. I would hire a professional economic development director to work with the Chamber, as I've said, aggressively. Just want to make a comment about this administration took the former Carbide property, 500 acres of the most prime acreage in Fairfield County, and in one night rezoned it to allow for the building of 2,000 condominiums. These didn't create jobs nor didn't generate value to our grand list. Not a shovel in the ground at the Amphenol property, and you gave 7 years of tax breaks without making the builder start the work. Bad idea, no vision, bad plan.
Gary, to unseat an incumbent, a challenger often has to either provide a smoking gun reason to oust the incumbent and or offer a compelling reason for voters to choose the challenger. In that context, what is Mayor Boughton's biggest Achilles heel or smoking gun? And what is the single most compelling positive quality about you that would influence the voters to elect you as the mayor of Danbury on November 3rd?
Okay, Art, well, first of all, I believe that this mayor treats the city charter, which is the constitution of our city, as a suggested document. Last year, he floated five $500,000 bonds without going to the taxpayers for an approval. This sounds like the Dick Cheney approach to law. We've had in the past settlements with a former personnel director without common council approval, as the charter requires. We've appointed a deputy chief who served for nearly 2 years without common council approval. And this recent lawsuit that was filed by the civil service workers showed again that the mayor did not play by the rules. We were supposed to hire from the top 6 eligible candidates, and somehow candidate 108, who is a son of somebody in high authority, was able to jump the list and get hired as a city firefighter. And you can't convinced me that 107 people before him failed the psychological screening.
Well, I'm not going to discuss ongoing litigation here, except to say that anybody can sue anybody over anything, and it doesn't make it true, and it doesn't make it right. And so the city of Danbury routinely gets sued all the time. It's part of doing business as such a large entity. And so I'm proud of our hiring process, and I'm certainly proud of the firefighters that serve our city each and every day and put their lives on the line. They're doing an outstanding job. I think that the question from Art was, well, what are you going to bring to the office that's different, or what's the Achilles heel? And quite frankly, there really isn't an Achilles heel. What there is a lot of innuendo and a lot of false charges that are thrown around. But the net of it is Danbury is lauded across this country as one of the best run communities. We're lauded across the country with the highest bond rating and the highest credit rating in the history of our city. And we're lauded because of how efficient we are. And there's a reason for that. And that's because we have solid administrators that work every day to the benefit of our residents. And we've got a great administration that truly cares about the residents of the city.
Danbury has the lowest unemployment rate in the state. How would you work with local companies to create jobs and attract business to Danbury?
Well, I think that, number one, we do that every day. But also, as I mentioned earlier, one of the challenges that we have is encouraging our small and medium-sized businesses. They're under the most pressure right now as it relates to the current economic crisis, and they need the most help, particularly with access to capital, and particularly with being able to expand or even keep themselves in business. So by developing a true coaching program, we'll be able to mentor a lot of our business, much like SCORE does, our retirees do already, but expand that, bring in Westcon, bring in the business department, some of our master level students to work closely with prospective business and business owners. We can be successful. But I have to tell you one other thing. We can talk all we want about economic development directors and who does what. At the end of the day, when we sit down at the table, the CEO of the company wants to see the mayor of the city of Danbury. Just like I did with Boehringer Ingelheim, with Mankind, with Barden, with Cardis, with many other businesses at Praxair that wanted to expand here in the city of Danbury. They came to my office, we sat down and negotiated an agreement to keep them here and to expand jobs in Danbury. The mayor is the chief cheerleader for the city, and it's the mayor's responsibility to go out there and to meet with our CEOs, to extend the offer to them, and to work with them to locate their business here in Danbury. Everybody, at the end of the day, wants to see the mayor.
Yes, I believe, again, that we should hire a full-time professional economic development director. If you just walk Main Street, you'll see too many stores are empty and people not working in them. Also, as the News Times recently reported, our poverty level in Danbury has risen sharply over the last 2 years. So despite the low unemployment rate, we still have people that can't feed their children.
Next question, Gary Hawley. Back to Gary.
Gary, you and I go back a long way. We graduated from high school together in 1972, and I look around this room and I think I've counted 6 others that were in our class. Lots changed since then regarding our educational system. What is your vision regarding the future of education in Danbury?
Well, as I said, Gary, I think we've got to keep teachers in the classroom. I think we need an arts, a magnet school for the arts. I think we need an academy of math and science. Those are critical skills for our children to be competitive in this global economy. And, with General Rhee, I've had the occasion to travel to countries that this country is outsourcing our jobs to. And I can tell you that these children are very bright, very well educated, and very, very hungry. So again, I think we've got to do things outside the box as far as education, as far as giving our kids a more rounded development and get them outside the classrooms to do some activities. And again, I mentioned the magnet school for the art and the math and science, which would not be held during regular classroom hours.
Thank you very much. I just want to address something that Gary mentioned earlier because it relates to education, and that is he said, well, we shouldn't spend so much money on the police station, and we should use that money for our police officers and for our educators. And to me, I can't believe I'm hearing this, but he's talking about mixing borrowed money, bonding money, with operational money, and which is a major accounting no-no. And you don't take borrowed money and go and fund teacher salaries and police officer salaries with it because obviously you create a deficiency in your next budget that's even bigger and greater. In terms of magnet schools, I'd like another magnet school too. I think that's important. The problem is the state has put a ban on magnet schools and funding them for at least the next year, probably next 2 to 3 years. So that's not really going to be something that's going to help us out. So what can we do? One of the things we can do is we can plan. And right now we have a 2020 task force that's out there working on some long-term strategic plans about how to best deliver educational services to our children. That does mean creating small academies where children's skill sets and their visions and their ideas and thoughts will be looked at, and that they'll be enhanced, and then they'll be moved on into secondary education. It does mean breaking kids into the smallest groups possible all over the city. So you not just have one big high school, you have dozens of lighthouses of learning located all over Danbury, affiliated with the hospital, affiliated with Westcon, affiliated with our industries and our businesses, affiliated with, yes, the police department, and affiliated with our fire department for those kids that are interested in careers in public safety. That's an inexpensive way to go out and do it, and that's an inexpensive way to educate our children. And that's really the vision where we're going in education when we look at all the research that's currently available.
Next question.
Mark, pretty much everyone agrees that a vibrant downtown Danbury is critical to the future of the city. What is your vision for the future of the downtown? What specific steps have you taken toward achieving that vision? And what specific plans do you have for the future?
Well, I think the first thing that we need is a plan. And I think too often through various administrations, we spent a lot of time talking about what we wanted downtown to look like, but we never really set to paper a plan that every mayor, regardless of who it is, can manage to. Right now we have the Renaissance Task Force, the Downtown Renaissance Task Force, chaired by John Klein, that's in the process of developing that strategic vision. They're working closely with our planning director. They'll have recommendations about zoning, recommendations about business encouragement, recommendations about infrastructure improvement. That plan should decide future decision-making as it relates to our downtown as we go forward. The city has made a substantial investment in our downtown over the last 8 years, including a new parking garage of $10 million, also including the Connecticut Film Festival, which we brought to Danbury specifically because we wanted folks to utilize the services downtown. We just recently acquired a grant for the Palace Theater that we're in the process of doing a strategic study about, something we've never done before. And by the way, the Palace Theater is finally open, at least part of it is anyways, and folks have been able to use that. But we do have much more to do, and we do need a plan that we can manage to, whether I'm the mayor or the next person is the mayor. And I think that's been the problem with downtown. There's been no long-term strategic plan, and really that's what we need as we go forward.
Yes. Also, I'd like to extend the range of city center. I think the benefits would help draw new businesses into the Danbury downtown. I would like to offer free Wi-Fi for the businesses coming into Danbury downtown as a draw. I'd also like to dedicate a staff member to work directly with Andrea Gartner in City Center to make sure that she gets the support from the mayor's office that she needs. Also, I want to come back to one point that the mayor made in commingling bonding money with budget. As I said earlier, $13.8 million in this current budget year was spent to pay long-term debt. And again, if we hadn't spent the money to accrue long-term debt, we wouldn't have to pay it back, thereby having more money to keep teachers in the classroom and police on the street.
Next question from Alan Morton. Here.
All governments are facing major fiscal challenges. How would you balance the need to maintain quality services to the public with the need to be fiscally prudent and possibly cut these services?
Well, Alan, I've said before, I think we've got to look to City Hall and the various departments in city government and look to make them more efficient. In the corporate world, we do things like activity process modeling, and we actually analyze what activities and processes people do on a daily basis, what the pain points are, what the handoffs are between departments, and that has shown significant results for a company like General Reinsurance over the years. I think we've got to look to infuse technology where we can, make things easier. We need to get away from paper as we can. And also, I think, as a business executive, you've got to make the tough decisions. And I think, the kids are the future of our city, and the future of our state and country. And I think, again, health and safety are big buzzwords for me. And I think we've got to encourage, more money to be directed into those areas. And again, we've got to be smart about where we're bringing these, where we're getting the money from.
I just want to address one thing that Gary's mentioned a couple of times about bonding. You can listen to Mr. Goncalves, you can listen to me and believe who you want, but I recommend that folks go listen to the national bond rating agencies. I want you to listen to what Fitch says about our bonding. It says the city has benefited from management's conservative debt policies that have helped keep debt ratios historically low. Or listen to what S&P said in July of 2009. The overall net debt burden remains low compared to market values. And let's just understand that any borrowing that's done, most of the borrowing that's done, the big ticket items, are approved by the voters. For example, Gary's made a big issue about the police station over the last 45 minutes we've been here. The voters require participation. You have to go and vote in the referendum. Gary didn't even bother voting in the referendum for the police station. Yet here he is criticizing that particular project. So I think that when we go out and we make statements, we have to make sure that we're participating. And if you're going to be the CEO of the city, you've got to participate in elections and make your statements about particular referendums and actually participate. Otherwise, it's very difficult and disingenuous to criticize them. But our bond rating is as high as it's ever going to be, or it could be slightly higher if we get upgraded. But our net bond in terms of indebtedness is 6.7% of our general fund expenditures. Our target policy is 10%, so we're almost 4% below where even our own analysts say we should be, because we've been so conservative in our borrowing, even with the police station. And finally, these bonds that he's been talking about, they're not just my bonds. We're paying back borrowing that took place in the 1990s. If you remembered, we added an entire wing onto Danbury High School for the price tag of about $40 million. That's where a lot of this debt service is going. And of course, we add new debt service as we roll off old debt service. That's prudent fiscal financial management, and that's what's been lauded by both our auditors and the bond rating agencies.
The final question from the panel, Jerry Hawley to Mark.
Mayor Boughton, significant improvements have been made to our downtown in recent years, including streetscape improvements and the new police station. But as you enter the main area of our downtown, you are confronted with day workers that are looking for employment. Many people are intimidated by this and have said that it deters them from going downtown. What do you say to these people?
Boy, you had to ask that one, didn't you? Just had to go there. I would say to these folks, number one, that our downtown Danbury is one of the most safest parts of the city. When you look at the parts per crime that occur, it's not on Main Street and it's not in our city center. So we're safe where we are. However, I would agree that the best image, particularly after the investment of the police station, and particularly after all the work that we've done in our downtown, the best image is not to have folks that are standing outside looking for work. I would encourage nonprofit organizations, if they want to take on that task of trying to somehow organize those folks, that would be up to them. That's something we can't spend taxpayer dollars on, and we shouldn't spend taxpayer dollars on, and it's not our responsibility really to find a place for somebody to stand to look for work. However, I will tell you, the Supreme Court is being clear. If you're looking for work that doesn't break the law, we just can't go arrest people and round them up because they're standing on the sidewalk. So we're really stuck in a very difficult position. We're trying to be compassionate to people that want to get up in the morning and go to work. That's a good thing. But on the other hand, we certainly can't condone folks that are engaging in activity that might not be in the best interest of the city. But I'm optimistic that perhaps a nonprofit will want to take on that task of relocating the workers and potentially organizing them.
Yes, I just want to say a few things. First of all, the workers downtown, and I do believe it's a safe downtown. Just mention something that the mayor had said. We'll go back a few years to the Danbury 11 case where the mayor said that there was no Danbury police involvement. And again, it's another significant lawsuit that the city may well lose. And you know, when his police chief was under oath, he said, yes, indeed, we were involved, and in fact, one of our officers was driving the car. So, and I want to get back to the point about the bond referendum for the police department, and bond referendums in general. First of all, I didn't vote because I didn't believe in it. I thought it was overkill at the time, and I still believe that way. And I'm hearing reports for all the money we spent on that police station that there's flooding in the basement, there's doors coming off the hinges, there are lights that go on and off whether you're in a room or not. You know, things could have been done better there. And as far as bonding, when we just go back to, the mayor likes to talk about how healthy the general fund is. But frankly, his budget has increased from $149 million to $202 million, an increase of $53 million, which was incurred by the backs of the Danbury taxpayers. And the mayor knows as much, you know, to continue to spend at the levels that we are, that fund balance has to continually grow to keep pace and to keep our bond ratings. So again, I'll say that we have had significant tax increases through the years, and again, the people of this community can't tolerate it much longer.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now have some questions from the audience. I did receive a large number of questions, some of which have been covered by the recent questions from the panelists. But there are 3 or 4 here that I'll ask the candidates to address. The first one, and it says, what one thing can you do as mayor to get the Danbury public out to meetings and more involved in city government? Gary, we'll start with you.
Well, that's a great question because, you know, if you've attended any council meetings, you'll know that there are very few people there, citizens of Danbury. And in fact, even when we're discussing the budget and other things, it's usually not a well-attended session. I think, you know, we've got to get the people more enthusiastic about city government. I think there's been a lot of apathy through the years. I think people are just sitting back and saying, well, my taxes are going to go up anyway, so, you know, why even bother? And that's the other thing about bond referendums. When something's presented to the voters, they believe that these bond referendums have been vetted by their elected personnel, the council people, and the mayor, and that if it comes before them, it's a good idea. And that's not always the case. So I think we've got to put together some focus groups. We've got to get people, you know, engaged with city government. And that same thing actually goes back to education. I think we've got to get the parents more involved. I know it's a difficult atmosphere with this economy where people are trying to look for jobs and a lot of people are working out of town. But we've got to get the parents back involved with their school children to foster a better educational system for them.
I'm kind of stunned by something Gary said about the police station vote. You didn't vote because you didn't agree with it. I would think that you would go and vote against it to voice your opinion, and that's how you participate in government. I don't think we need more focus groups. Like Gary just said, I think the governor got herself in a little trouble for having focus groups. It's not a good thing right now. But I will tell you that one way that we have had some success at getting folks engaged in their government is through social media, things like Facebook, through things like Twitter, using our website. And we're working right now on a new website 2.0, Danbury 2.0, if you will, where we're going to roll out probably the next month or so. And on the website, we'll have things like streaming media where you'll be able to watch council meetings or particular planning commission meetings right on the computer. We'll have a Facebook group just for Danbury. We'll have a Facebook page. We'll have a Twitter page just for Danbury. The idea being that folks today get their information from so many different ways and so many different avenues that we want to try to touch them as many ways as we can to get them involved and engaged in what we do at City Hall. In addition to that, we have put our meetings on TV. We have the government channel. In fact, this debate will be broadcast on TV over the next several days on our government channel as a way in which to touch people that even if they're not particularly at the meeting, they're paying attention and they do watch and see what happens. So there are different ways that we can look at that. It doesn't necessarily involve actually coming to a meeting and being at the meeting, but people can still stay engaged, particularly as they're under a lot of time pressure in these very busy times with family pressures and so forth.
The next question, I'll start with Mark Fountain. Have you read the new city charter, and will you do your best to abide by it?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a charter revision commission that the Common Council appointed for a year and a half, worked on a lot of different issues. They've come out with, I think, a really good document. We're pretty proud of it, and we're hoping that the voters will see it the same way on Election Day. It really is a makeover, if you will, of our government, the charter being sort of the constitution of our city, if you will. We're pretty excited about some of the changes that are in there. Some of them are fairly mundane. Other changes are pretty significant, and I'm supporting it wholeheartedly. Yes, I've read it many times, and certainly am proud of the information that's in there.
As I've said, of course I would abide by the city charter, and again, I would abide by it to the extent possible by the law. Again, I've said that the mayor has treated this constitution of our city as a suggestive document. Again, last year, he got our bonding attorney who held fast since the last charter revision that we could only bond $500,000 in a single year, and he was able somehow to get that same bonding attorney to agree to float 5 bonds for $500,000 a year without going for taxpayers for an approval. So, and again, there have been repeated instances of charter abuses by this administration. Again, I mentioned the settlement with a former personnel director without common council approval. And again, we paid this personnel director for what actually equated to a no-show job for a period of time. And that's something that's not only in direct violation of the charter, but other statutes of the state of Connecticut.
The next question is, we'll start with Gary. It says, if elected, what would be your intentions with the AWD transfer station on White Street?
That's a good question. I don't believe that Danbury should be the sole bearer of the expenses involved with the transfer station, nor do I believe it should reap from the profits of solely from the transfer station. I believe we belong to an organization, the HRRA, which has other member cities, and we are a 35% participant in that, and I believe it would be just and fair to the other members and the other communities to share in the expenses and share in the profits to the extent that the other communities would want to participate.
The question was about the transfer station. Just want to address one thing and just be clear. There was no settlement with the personnel director. Settlement implies that there was some kind of lawsuit goes on which would trigger a review by the Common Council. But even the fact that there was no settlement, we still had a Common Council meeting about the transition that we're making, how we're eliminating the position in an effort to save money during the recession of 02 and 03. So let's just be clear about that. You can say it as many times as you want, Gary. It doesn't make it true. Now, let's get on to the issue of the transfer station. The bottom line here is that there are 2 reasons why the City of Danbury needs to own that particular facility. The first one is for the issue of transparency. We can't have another monopoly created on that site again. The Danbury Solid Waste Authority will provide that transparency. We'll have public meetings, we'll have agendas, we'll have minutes, we'll broadcast them on TV. So people will have an opportunity to know what's happening on the site. Transparency will allow for a fair and level playing field for all haulers who want to use that facility. So you don't have an issue where one hauler is locked out because somebody's mad that somebody stole an account from them. We will be the traffic cop, if you will, of that facility. By having a fair and level playing field, that'll allow for lower rates to our residents, the people who are victimized under the property rights system to begin with. So we'll have a lower cost to the consumer, Danbury consumers, and greater Danbury consumers. The second piece is the revenue. This was our garbage, and according to the indictment and the succeeding adjudication of that particular case, the taxpayers were the ones who were victimized in the businesses. They should reap the benefits from the garbage that's generated here in Danbury, and they should keep the profits of that and put that back into the general fund so that we can use that to offset taxes, add new teachers, add police officers, do the things that we want to do. The bottom line is that This will be a function of price. It'll depend on what number. We're working closely with the federal government right now. I can't disclose everything, but we've had some very positive talks, and we hope to be able to bring this project to closure. If we can't get it for the right price, then we probably shouldn't engage in it. I will tell you this, HRA has already spoken, and they're not interested in purchasing the facility because of the very diverse amount of communities that are involved. And trying to get 10 towns and 10 councils and 10 people on the councils to agree, they felt was just too big of a bite to take of the apple. I will say they've been incredibly helpful, though, in this process as Danbury moves through it.
The final question today to both candidates, and we'll start with Mark Boughton. Did you ever cheat at golf?
Wow, that's a tough one. I can't recall an incident where I ever cheated intentionally. I can tell you that there's been some serious debate over the rules. In my golf bag, I carry both the Royal and Ancient rules as well as the USGA rules, and they're not necessarily, as Lenny Ketchnell from the Richter Park Authority would tell you, they're not always, they sometimes are in conflict with each other. But no, there's never been any cheating.
Well, frankly, with this run for mayor, I've not had much time to play golf, so I haven't had much time to cheat at it either. But no, I would not cheat at golf. I take sports very, very passionately, and I believe in teamwork and competition. Do want to get back to one point that Mark had said, though, about the Carol DeSanti. There was an agreement. I have it in my possession. Many people in this room have it in their possession. That agreement stated that she was supposed to be on call for the city of Danbury, and the agreement states that before she left, while she was being on call, she had to return all city property. And if she was on call, then explain to us why that her paychecks came back to your personnel department because they could not find her.
We'll now have closing comments, 1 minute each by each candidate, and first we'll go to Gary Collins.
It's time to exchange bad ideas for good ideas in Danbury. It's time to abandon the bad idea of tax, borrow, and spend for the good idea of competent budget management and taxpayers in mind, not developers, contributors, and insiders. It's time to replace the bad idea of lip service to economic development with the good idea of growing jobs and the businesses that create them through a full-time economic development director. It's time to put to rest the bad idea of larger classes and awaken the good idea of hiring, not retiring, experienced teachers. It's time to stop the bad idea of ignoring failing schools and start the good idea of reviving public schools to prepare kids for the global job market. And it's past the time to end the talk about traffic congestion that is compromising our quality of life and start doing something to fix the problem. It's time to retire the bad ideas of a mayor who hides from the public, putting policies over people while declaring the opposite, and embrace the good ideas of a mayor who will be prudent and competent, open and transparent, and willing to listen to all Danburyans. These are my ideas, this is my vision, this is my plan. We can do better. Many thanks to the Chamber and all of you.
Once again, I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event. I've enjoyed the opportunity to discuss the challenges that face our great city. And as I said earlier, being mayor of the city of Danbury is the highest honor for me. However, running for the office of mayor and being the mayor are two very different things. As you've seen today, it's easy just to throw out things, put out innuendo. It's a lot more difficult to sit in the office and make the challenging and tough choices that you face. And you have to do that because you believe you're making those choices in the best interest of the city. You can't just speak in vague generalities. You've got to lay out a plan to lead, and then you've got to go about executing that plan. You actually have to participate in the process by showing up to vote when the biggest project in 20 years is on the ballot for the city of Danbury. And as mayor, and as a candidate, I've been proud to share a positive vision of Danbury, and I'm proud of my record. Most importantly, I've governed in a bipartisan manner. Democrats on the Common Council have voted unanimously approximately 92% of the time with my agenda. Let's see if Congress can figure out how to do that. Finally, I'm blessed to be supported by a woman who supports me in every way. She has become a strong community advocate in her own right. A positive vision, proper planning, and sound decision making will ensure that Danbury's best days lie yet ahead. With God's grace and your support, We'll make our journey to a stronger community successful, and I ask for your vote and support today. Thank you for attending, and God bless America. Thank you.
On behalf of the Chamber, I want to express the Chamber's thanks to both Gary and Mark for a well-discussed debate of city issues, and also to our panelists, Art Cummings, Alan Morton, and Gary Hawley. We thank all of you for your attendance here today and your interest in city politics. That concludes the forum.